So welcome, Giga, welcome everybody. As usual, we have our students, our coaches in training presenting one of their works here in our academy. And this time is the turn of Giga Kerkadze from Tbilisi in Georgia, presenting the book that you have read, Giga, for your certification, which is an amazing book. Written by Howard Gardner, Multiple Intelligences, and it has an immense impact on us as coaches and, generally speaking, as human beings. It had an immense impact on me, my professional career as a trainer. So thank you for bringing this work to us.
Thank you, Christina, for intro, and welcome and hello, dear friends and colleagues. I'm happy and honored to present today really this fascinating book. As Christina mentioned, we even had the chance to speak individually about this book, and we shared some thoughts on it. And yeah, really, I was also very impressed with the amount of the similarities and also connections I saw with the coaching. But in general, I guess this book is very interesting for anyone interested in education or just, I would say, humanity itself. So yeah, so I would start, one second, sorry. Okay, yeah, I would start briefly introducing the agenda for today. So we'll start with the author intro, short intro about the main person who wrote this book. Second, then we will speak about briefly about the multiple intelligence theory itself. Then we would cover the review of the intelligences one by one, the ones that are mentioned in the book. After that, fourth point, I have noted, so multiple intelligence concepts in education, which are discussed in this book, and the links I found with the coaching of this topic. Finally, I would have some final words, and at the end of the session, we could have group discussion with any Q&A or any thoughts that would be coming from the auditory. I would be glad to hear and also participate in discussion. Okay, so let's start. First, a little bit about the author itself, Mr. Howard Gardner, which is an American development psychologist and professor of cognition and education at Harvard University. Very strong profile, and I'm probably very known in the field of psychology, education, and all the, I would say, relevant fields close by. So this person holds honorary degree from 30 plus colleges and universities, is author of around 30 books, and he first proposed his theory of multiple intelligences back in 1983. His book, Frames of Mind, was the initial book where he mentioned about this theory. And the book that I read now, the Multiple Intelligences, is the updated version of his theory. And he used some years to also build up additional knowledge about the topic. And he made great links with the education and etc. So yeah, this is the, I would say, intro about the topic and about the person itself. Next, let's move now with the introduction of the multiple intelligences theory. And I brought here this picture because I think it really illustrates well the main message that the author is proposing in his theory. So I just gave 5 seconds to for everyone to read and I would say digest the picture. And the main message, of course, here is that the multiple intelligences theory is directly, I would say, going for the fair. So here we see the picture, and it's going against the standardized approach that education and after that the corporate world used for exams and also for some applications that companies are using for the selection process of their colleagues. And The theory itself, it is the, let me go back to the next, let me get back to the schedule, sorry. So what was the new in the multiple intelligences theory? So if we look at the traditional view, the intelligence is operational ability to answer items on the IQ tests. In the traditional view, we say that we have only one inborn intelligence. We call it general intelligence. That doesn't change much with the training or experience. And also the emphasis in the traditional view is on linguistic or logical and mathematical parts of intelligence. And in the multiple intelligences theory, which Howard Gardner introduced, we have a challenging theory that is challenging that traditional view. And here he introduces that intelligence is the brain's capacity to solve problems or create product in particular setting or environment. And also that we have multiple intelligences and each one of them is developed in unique way. And in his theory, Howard Gardner identified 8 main intelligences. So instead of one previous view that we have one fixed intelligence and we measure it with IQ test, the guy came in, they said, okay, let's not approach everyone with the one, I would say, measuring board, and let's see a different perspective. So what are the main intelligences that he identified? First is linguistic intelligence, which is finding the right words or expressing well what you mean. In this field, you would find the poets, the writers, could be politicians or people that will have to deal with communication itself. Second intelligence is logical mathematical. Well, it's pretty self-explanatory, but it's quantifying things, making logical hypotheses and proving them. So in this field, you would find scientists, all the mathematicians and people who need specifically this skill in their life. Third intelligence is bodily kinesthetic. So coordinating your mind with your body. In this field, you would find sports athletes who have developed their body intelligence to the high level. Next intelligence is visual spatial. So visualizing the world in 3D. So in this intelligence, you would find painters and everyone who has to deal with the visual part of the world. There are many, let's say, different spheres that are using this intelligence. Next one is musical. So people who can discern the sounds, their pitch, tone, and rhythm, and they have special, how to say, the special ear for the audio senses. And of course, in here we would find all the musicians and everybody who has to deal with this sphere. Next intelligence he identified is interpersonal intelligence. And this is sensing people's feelings and motives. This is very much in line with the Goleman's emotional intelligence topic. And Howard Gardner is also equating this intelligence with Goleman's finding of emotional intelligence, which became super popular in the recent years. Next is the intrapersonal intelligence. So understanding yourself, what you feel, what you want. So introspection and self-awareness that comes from this. Next, intelligence. Actually, initially he identified 7 and he added naturalistic only at the end, I guess in 1995. He added this, and it's understanding the living things, understanding the nature and the environment we live in. And usually in this field, you would find people who are in botanics or who are also very actively going into environmental topics and all the related fields. So these are the 8 main intelligences that were identified by this theory. And here I would like to just stop for a couple of seconds and ask the audience, so which ones do you think are important for coaches and why? Maybe we could write it in comments, or we could also just mention here. Sorry, Christina, I cannot see the comments here. Do we have some comments? Maybe you could help me out here.
So I invite Willy, Nasli, Francine, and Natalia, if you want to write in the chat. Interpersonal, says Nasli.
Yeah, maybe we also add, why do you think that this is important for coaches? Would be interesting to hear your thoughts.
Yeah. Intra and interpersonal, bodily, interpersonal, bodily kinesthetic, yes. Have to read people. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So Natalia, you also mentioned bodily. So we have to understand the body language when we're dealing with the clients. Understanding yourself. Yes, of course. Probably one of the most important skills for the coach.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Anything
else you would
I would
see?
also add the linguistic approach, but also, you know, the musical thing is not just specific to understand music, but it's also, you know, to understand the tone of voice, or to notice at least difference in tone of voice, or a different way of speaking, and generally speaking, I would say that diversity and variety of intelligence is a blessing. So it helps as coaches to develop all that we are and that we have.
Helpful if you can have the same as the client Willy is mentioning. Yeah, definitely. And also maybe even logical. I would also even add logical, because still in the coaching, there are a lot of things that you have to follow the logic of the client. Okay, linguistic.
There is also linguistic, interpersonal, easy to connect with people, to empathize with them. Yes.
Okay, great. Thanks everyone for contribution. And let me move to the next slide. So next point I would like to discuss. So as I mentioned, this multiple intelligences theory was introduced by Howard Gardner initially quite some time ago. And then he spent a lot of time, he's mentioning that initially when he introduced it, he was saying that only psychologists would be interested in this theory, but he ended up understanding that education was actually the field that really took off his theory and started using it in its own development. So he found a lot of schools that told him, and they approached him, and hey, we want to start this schools that are specifically based on multiple intelligences theory. So he found that educational system found it very useful, and the school started to build specifically programs with this approach. And the big part of the book is describing all the implication that this theory has with the education. So next I would use a few concepts that I found are describing the schools that are based on multiple intelligences theories. And these concepts are having very good match with the coaching topic. So on the next slides, you would see in red the concepts that are used in multiple intelligence education and the schools that are being built according to this. And in green, I would suggest the link that I found with coaching. So first, the educational system that is, I would say, transformative in this challenging the traditional educational system is the focus on uniqueness of each profile. So if previously in the standard school approach, all the children were treated the same and the program was same for everyone, and also everybody were tested in the same way and measured in the same way. On one side, you could say, of course, this was fair, but on the other side, understanding the multiple intelligence theory would suggest you that, hey, maybe we could build schools where you focus education on first understanding what kind of students are there, what are their strengths, and to focus specifically on their individual skills. So the main first, I would say, principle in this education, new type of education, is focus on uniqueness of each profile and each student in this case. And of course, this is very much linked with ICF's approach to focus on the being and uniqueness of each client. I would say this is fundamental approach on which coaching is based. So we celebrate and we see each client as a unique being and unique individual. Next, I think also super important and very much close to coaching concept, which is exploring the topics from different perspectives. So in these schools, new type of schools that are using MI theory, teachers and the people who started these schools, they really try to give students education where they teach any specific subject or any specific topic from different perspectives. So, for example, if there was a discussion in the class and the class is discussing some historical event that happened in 1960, whatever year, they try to give children the knowledge and to show them the perspectives of that specific event from very different perspectives. So first one would be, so from historical point of view, how this thing actually happened, but then you could analyze the same story from philosophical point of view and approach that topic from that perspective. Then you could find another different layers and different ways to analyze that subject. And so using different perspectives, and this is so much in line with what coaching is all about. Yeah. So coaching is, we always try to evoke new awareness and to encourage new or expanded ways of thinking. So I guess this is like the basic main definition of coaching. Yeah, we try to show or lead the new, we encourage the new expanded ways of thinking. Usually there is something that is one point of view that probably client could see, and we're trying to expand and show them that there are different perspectives. And this is the main, let's call it goal of the coaching, or yeah, the main purpose of the coaching. Yeah, by the way, if you have some comments or you want to add during this discussion, please raise your hand and I would be glad to further discuss this with you. Or maybe you could also leave the comments in the section. Okay, so next concept, focus on understanding versus knowledge. And I guess this is pretty self-explanatory. So in these type of educational schools, really they focus on not only learning by knowing something by heart or just reading the information itself, but they really care about the understanding of subjects. And as I mentioned before, this understanding comes from seeing things and from different perspectives. And this concept is once again very much linked with ICF's approach of evoking awareness and facilitating client growth. So we are facilitators of clients reaching new understandings, and just from simple topics that they could mention, that they know something, we are there to support their new realizations and new understandings. Next concept is focus on practical application. And I guess this is also so close with the coaching topic. Just 1 second. I just reading Will's comment. Interesting debate. Because can be Ukraine.
In the
Yes.
expanded, the previous one, the expanded way of thinking. I mean, basically, people will say no, but it's the West that actually is to blame. And then, of course, South Africa's position is to stance with Russia, and so I can carry on. So it's always various ways of looking at things, not only history, but also.
Definitely, Willie, and great point, and also tying it to the very hot topic that we have right now in the world. I agree. So I was speaking about focus on practical application and how it links with the ICF approach. And of course, also, I would say this is super important approach, and also something that coaching is built on. ICF's focus on post-session action plan to facilitate client growth is very similar to the concept that is used in this education, new type of education schools. And we all know that it's nothing, any realization or coaching would not be anything useful without the action plan and actual things that we are facilitating to happen with the client and after the sessions. Next topic is focus on partnership relationship. And this was, once again, very striking similarity with the coaching. So in these type of schools, they also try to see students as partners. And this is very, I would say, challenging view to the current educational system. Yeah, because in the most educational systems, you would see there is very vertical approach when the teacher and the students are not at the same level, and it's usually very hierarchical. And these type of schools, they really focus on partnership relationships with the students. And once again, this is super similar with the ICF approach to see coaching as a relationship, as a partnership, and very horizontal approach and no hierarchies. Next concept, and of course, this is also obvious one, staying aware of own unique set of intelligences. This topic, once again, of course, tied to the self-awareness, and we all understand this is super important for both coaches and clients to be self-aware and to know our own unique set intelligences and to support clients' understanding and their awareness regarding the set of intelligences that they have and their strengths. Next topic is focus on strengths and positive mindset. And this is something that I had discussion with Christina also, because on one of my sessions, I had the problem with the client mentioning some problem of theirs. And then once again, the issue was that I kind of focused more on the problem itself rather than moving to the positive mindset and to moving the discussion towards the solution rather than just focusing on the problem. And of course, we as coaches need to ask the clients questions that are focused on positive outcome. And there are a lot of cases when the client is saying, okay, I don't want that, I don't want this, this is my problem, I cannot do that. And as Christina had highlighted, it's always great to transform that in a way, okay, you don't want that, but what do you want actually? What is the opposite of that not wanting something? And the same approach was used in these schools, and they focus on the strengths of the students. In the same way, we have also strength coaching, specifically strength coaching, which I find very exciting. And after reading this book, actually, I'm thinking that strength coaching is something that I'm leaning more towards. Next, to build up on the last point, I would like to stop again and give you a short quiz question. So what do you think these 4 people have in common? So this is Winston Churchill, Einstein, Thomas Edison, and Pablo Picasso on the pictures. You could write down in chat or maybe raise your hand and just mention without any
very
notice.
engaging. They focused in their strengths.
Yes, they focused in their strengths. From Francine. Okay. Any other answers?
They kept on trying till they got it. Yeah.
Okay. Of course, there are no right or wrong answers. This is for us to explore the topic, and then, of course, I would give also my view on the subject, or I would say, I would give Howard Gardner's view on the subject. Anyone else?
Well, I would say the courage and the passion of what they did, what they believed in. Natalia, right? They believed in what they were doing.
Great. Thank you so much for participation.
I would add, they had a vision and they pursued that vision.
I would say I agree with all of the points. Of course, this is something for discussion, and this is, I would say, food for thought question also. They believed in what they were doing. Natalia, yes. So now I will move on.
All have gray hair. It's also.
I guess if we stay for more long, we would find even more interesting answers to this question.
Right.
Thank you so much. The gray hair. Thank you so much for participation and for your comments here. So now I will move on with the answer straightly with the quote from Howard Gardner book. And actually, this is the quote that I liked the most from this book. Of course, this is immensely interesting book with lots of content, but usually, I guess when we all read books, like 90% of the content, or even 95%, we forget probably after 10 days or 2 weeks, but there are some quotes or some messages that really stick and stay. And for me, this was the quote. For example, I'm pretty sure if you read this book, or of course, if you already read it, some other quote will stick to you. For me, this was something that really sticked. And this is how we responded to that question. So rarely in life are the fates of individuals determined by what they're unable to do. And this is very much, of course, linked with the strengths coaching topic that I mentioned now. And imagine these people managed to prove that they were geniuses, because probably they were like really geniuses. But if the standard educational system had questioned them, okay, sorry, I haven't actually said the answer, specific answer that was, 4 of these people, all of them had problems, serious problems in their education. So they were considered probably the least talented students, and they had real serious problems in the schools with the education, but they all ended up being, we see who they are, yeah, so real geniuses. So this is just to make the point that the standard educational system, with that approach of measuring everyone with the same measuring tape and giving the same education to everyone, and then saying, okay, somebody is not talented just because they didn't do well in the IQ test or in mathematics test, is probably not the most fair way to do it, and not most optimal way to really find specific talents and unique talents that people have. So these 4 people made, because probably they were super geniuses, but maybe we lost a lot of geniuses because of that standard approach. And with this new approach, we have to probably see more diamonds, and we could find more diamonds in humans. So that's the main idea behind this topic. And as Howard Gardner is mentioning, rarely in life the fates of individuals are determined by what they are unable to do. Okay, I guess I covered this point, and I explained to you why I found this the most interesting quote for me, and how this relates to the coaching topic, and specifically with the strength coaching topic. At the end, I would still finalize our discussion and this presentation with the final words that also comes from Howard Gardner, because I think this quote that he used is also close to the coaching topic. So perhaps if we can mobilize the full range of human intelligences and ally them to an ethical sense, once again underlying this ethical topic, the same way as it is in coaching, we can help increase the likelihood of our survival on this planet, and perhaps even contribute to our thriving. So this is a very optimistic note and optimistic quote that I would like to use as the final words of this presentation. And next, I would just leave you with the thought-provoking question, or I would say self-awareness, thought-provoking question that we could use maybe in the next challenge that we will have in life. So next time, ask yourself which intelligences you need to tap on in that specific situation. And maybe that would help us to have slightly higher self-awareness on that topic, because we would think in many different dimensions instead of just one. Thank you. And yeah, this is where I would wrap up today's presentation. Thank you very much for participation and for being today here with me.
Thank you, Giga. Thank you so much.
I would move to the group discussion topic, and floor is open to any comments or any thoughts about the subject.
It's amazing. I mean, we always get richer from the presentation that you offer to us. We have different perspectives, lovely images, and the phrases that you highlight, the things that you highlight from the book. Thank you, Giga, for your work. We're going to initiate our group discussion, and I'll stop the recording here. So for those who are watching our this presentation on our YouTube channel, you can join our community in order to engage in our discussion and in our activities.
This is our Sunlight Academy. If you want to become a certified life coach and find out more about our accredited coaching education, be part of our global community and learn about our programs, you can visit our website, sunlight.academy, and get in touch with us. We are more than happy to meet you.